What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. We hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited because the Dallas Cowboys are going to play a football game in just a couple of days. Today, the day I'm putting this video together for you, is Thursday, August the 10th, 2023. The Cowboys officially scheduled to begin their preseason 2 days from now on Saturday, August the 12th. That game happening at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will, of course, as we always do, have our live Dallas Cowboys postgame show available for you right here on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. So make sure you do subscribe. We'll also be streaming those on Twitch this year if you prefer that platform. We'll also have access points, obviously, all across Blog on the Boys, bloggingtheboys.com, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, whatever the case may be. Football season's here, and we're very excited to share it with you. I'm also very excited to be back home in my normal office, my normal kind of operating, sort of command room. I think this is the first video I've shot since I returned from training camp. We did have the roundtable and the mixtape that came out earlier in the week on the channel. We did have some videos that Rudy J, a good friend of mine from San Antonio, and I put together while we were in Oxnard. But now back and kind of, the rhythm has started, right? We're kind of starting to find our sequence, right? There's 3 preseason games, then there's that bye week, still kind of a newish thing across the NFL between the preseason and the regular season. So we're kind of finding our groove. I know the games are on Saturdays, but you know how football season kind of tends to be with the games happening on Sundays. Your whole week kind of tends to get structured around the NFL, right? You can't do anything on Mondays or Thursdays because there's Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, whatever the case may be. It's super exciting, and we're very excited for another Cowboys season here with you. So in advance of the Cowboys preseason opener on Saturday, a game that's taking place at AT&T Stadium against the Jacksonville Jaguars, we have 5 things that we want to see. You can call this what you want, 5 hopes, 5 wants, 5 wishes, whatever. For full context and full disclosure, I also podcasted about this exact same subject. It was a different conversation because I wanted to make sure you had your own thing here on YouTube, but you can check out, me and all of our various staffers across the Blog of the Boys podcast network, wherever you get your podcast. So that being said, 5 things, I will be writing about this as well on our site, 5 things that we want to see. I guess in the case of the first one, not see when it comes to what the Cowboys do and do not do on Saturday afternoon. The first one, super obvious. I don't care if you think it's boring. I don't care if you think it's too chalk. No injuries. And I don't ever want to see injuries for any team at any point. We want this to be the most injury-free NFL season, the most injury-free life, the most injury-free world possible. The unfortunate reality of the NFL is that injuries often happen. We've seen a couple across the NFL already throughout training camp to this point. But ideally, there is nothing in this realm, nothing in this department. I mentioned when I'm putting this video together on Tuesday, the Cowboys had a bit of a scare with Tyler Biadasz and Mozzie Smith. Thankfully, everything is all right. And the Cowboys really at this point not dealing with anything massive on the injury front. For what it's worth, David Durden, previously known to people as Prospect X, dealing with a concussion that happened on Tuesday. All told, the Cowboys not really, in any kind of deep stretch when it comes to the injury bug, but all the best to David Durden, certainly. So we hope that continues through Saturday. So moving on, I want to see some viable offensive line depth. And I don't think any of us are happy that Zach Martin has been missing time, right? I don't think any of us are pleased. I don't think any of us are mad or pissed off, but in a perfect world, Zach Martin would be there, right? Like, just to kind of make the point. But his absence has, created an opportunity for lemonade to be made, so to speak. And the Cowboys have been able to give players like Josh Ball some opportunities that may not have existed to that same degree. Mike McCarthy has said many times since camp began that Zach Martin, had he been there, would have been on a pitch count in the way that Tyron Smith has been. And that makes sense. But if you're looking for the perhaps silver and blue lining, it's that players like Josh Ball have been afforded more opportunities than they would have otherwise had. And we know as Dallas Cowboys fans, despite what I think is sort of a national belief, I think I've said this before, but I think sometimes we tend to, something tends to be true and we tend to apply that forever. And so I think, circa whatever, 9, 8, 7 years ago, the Cowboys had the best offensive line in the NFL. So you ask your average, NFL fan, average football fan, right? If you have a friend who's a Bengals fan or a Giants fan, maybe not Giants, maybe not in division, but you get my point. Somebody who's not paying attention to the Cowboys on a daily basis kind of still believes that, right? And we believe that about several things. We believe the Steelers draft receivers really well because there's a great track record for that. We believe that any Ravens linebacker is going to be amazing, right? Like, you just kind of fall into these tropes as a football fan. And so I think that there are a lot of people who believe the Cowboys offensive line is this point of stability. And that has not been the case for the last 3-4 years. In fact, Tyron Smith has missed time every season since 2016. And so the Cowboys, if and when Zach Martin does return, we certainly hope that is a win proposition. They are likely going to have to deal with depth issues all throughout the regular season. And so on Saturday, we want to see the Brock Hoffmans, the Josh Balls, the Matt Farniaks, the Chuma Edogas, the Austin Richardses. We want to see all these players kind of step up and elevate their game and prove and justify why the Cowboys have believed in them to this point. So that is something that is sort of critical to the success of this team here in 2023. Numero tres, something from Kelvin Joseph and or Nahshon Wright. Now, I will be honest, I think that we've seen something from Nahshon Wright, but Kelvin Joseph is really, it's a little early for me to do an official 53-man roster prediction, right? Because my prediction is, it matters, right? Whatever I say, it's definitely going to happen. So I say that in full jest, obviously. But if we were to do that, right? If we were to sit here and we were to predict the corners that are going to make the Cowboys 53-man roster, and for the purposes of this discussion, we'll, assume, this is an assumption, not a prediction or anything, but an assumption that Jordan Lewis will open the season on the physically unable to perform list. So he does not count towards our initial roster mass. We've been afforded that one get out of jail free card, okay? We've got Trayvon Diggs, we've got Stephon Gilmore, we've got Deron Bland, we've got Eric Scott Jr. We have very quickly made it to 4. CJ Goodwin technically counts, although he's obviously a special teamer, so you can or cannot count him, whatever you want to do. That's 5. All right, are we counting Israel Mukuamu? He's returned to a degree. Is he a corner? Is he a safety, right? He's kind of a part of the conversation. Let's not count him. Let's kind of list him with the safeties, but still we're at 5 if we count CJ Goodwin. Nahshon Wright, I think, has the edge over Kelvin Joseph at this point, so we're at 6. Counting, obviously, CJ Goodwin. But even if you don't want to count CJ Goodwin, fine, you're down to 5. But at some point, Jordan Lewis is going to return. And so now we're at 6. It's very difficult for me to see how Kelvin Joseph can stick around this roster into October and November at the very least. Maybe he does make it initially, maybe, whatever. But right now, we all really have to see something out of Kelvin Joseph in order for the Cowboys to justify a roster spot for him. We're past the point where you can keep just kind of saying, oh, well, he's a second-round pick, blah, 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 blah. No, it's third season. You got to do something now. You got to do something impressive. Nahshon Wright has had a few moments where he has somewhat justified his roster spot, so it's time for Kelvin Joseph to do the same thing. And similarly, as I watch the Houston Astros behind you on the TV in my office, similarly, we want to see something from the wide receiver 6 competition. Now, and I did say this, like, check the tape, go back in the channel, whatever, make sure you do subscribe. I did not think that Kevontae Turpin had a very strong chance to make the Cowboys roster. And I'm not trying to defend myself, but I want to at least explain my line of thinking. My thought process was that we hadn't really seen anything from Kevontae from an offensive contribution standpoint, right? Kevontae's only real contributions to the Cowboys throughout his rookie season of 2022 came in the special teams department. I'm checking the score of this game. It's super important, I promise you. But anyway, and this offseason, like we've seen in the past, the NFL made more moves towards basically rendering, kickoffs and punts from a return standpoint to be meaningless, right? The NFL is highly concerned with returns and the safety element of that, and that's understandable. But so they've really inhibited the ability that returners have to kind of make a play. And so if Kevontae's only real asset was as a returner, and that was not necessarily being able to be used all of the time, then I thought that would ultimately lead to him potentially not making the team. Now we are through 3 weeks of practice, 3 weeks of training camp effectively. And Kevontae has been a mainstay in terms of what the offense has been doing. Good for him, good for the Cowboys, good for Mike McCarthy. This is a smart, good thing, and I'm very happy to see that. So that changes Kevontae's sort of value to the team. Right now, he's a valued member of the offense, kind of like corner. If we do our best to initially predict which receivers are going to make this team, we very quickly get to 4. with CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jalen Tolbert, who's had an amazing training camp as well. We'll throw Kevontae Turpin in there. That is 5. Okay. I thought that Simi Fehoko was very clearly in this conversation. In fact, I thought he was ahead of Kevontae Turpin. I no longer think that's the case. So we have this last spot, this 6th spot available. Simi Fehoko certainly in the mix for it, but so is Jalen Brooks, this year's obviously 7th round rookie. So is Jalen Moreno-Cropper, this year's undrafted free agent darling, whose name has kind of cooled off a little bit. And so is Dennis Houston, who did make the 53-man roster initially last year. And so Simi is kind of fighting off all these other things. And what's working against Simi that's working for Jalen Brooks is that Jalen is a draft pick of the team this year. You have 4 years of incredibly cheap labor from him. If he does wind up panning out for you, that is something that worked in favor of Noah Brown sticking on this roster forever, because like Noah Brown, Jalen Brooks is a 7th round draft pick. The Cowboys have generally had all of their draft picks make the team in recent memory. And so it makes sense that they would prioritize somebody like Jalen Brooks in this case. But of those 4 players, those are the ones I think that Brooks has the inside track of all of them. But Jalen Moreno-Cropper, Simi Fehoko, Dennis Houston, that is a battle that is still happening each and every day. And obviously you only get 3 preseason games, and those are opportunities to really elevate your standing within the roster. And so that's what I want to see. My final thing, super chalk, super boring. I don't care. We have been deprived from a kicking standpoint as Dallas Cowboys fans. Brandon Aubrey, it's your show. I'm putting this together, like I said, on Thursday, and today at practice. Let me find this tweet, this X, whatever, from Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com, friend of the show. Nick tweeting out on Thursday, in today's kicking session to open practice, Brandon Aubrey went 6 for 7 with makes from 33, 33, 33, 36, 39, and 43 yards, and his lone miss came from 43 yards. That is wonderful. I mean, it's been a struggle so far throughout training camp for Cowboys kickers. Obviously, Tristan Vizcaino no longer a part of the team. Brandon Aubrey, this is your chance. You are literally going to have every opportunity. It is your job to lose. Make us happy. Put this to bed. It was a year ago that Brett Maher came back into our lives. So hopefully we are going down a path of similar success, because Brett Maher was a very successful regular season kicker for the Dallas Cowboys last year. We obviously hope that lasts a little bit longer than just the first 18 weeks of the season in the NFL. But those are the 5 things that I would like to see on Saturday afternoon from the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. What would you like to see? I would love to hear it. Please let me know. My name is RJ Ochoa. You can hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or Threads at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok, rj.ochoa. If you would like to send me an email, you can do so, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com, or you can leave a comment down below, and we will do our best to get to those. Also, for now, it's football time. We get a preseason game. What are you cooking? I actually want to know that. What are you making? My pellet grill is back up and operational, so I'm excited to kind of put together some football meals for the family. I'm so excited. I say this every year. It is our great honor and our great privilege to talk about the Dallas Cowboys with you. If somebody had told me when I was in high school and I was so obsessed with the Cowboys and had no outlet for that I would one day have friends all over the internet who wanted to talk about the Cowboys with me, I would have never believed it. So thank you so much for being a part of my dream. For now, let's go ahead and get out of here. Have a great day and have a great weekend, and let's enjoy the game on Saturday. I'll see you afterwards here on the live postgame show.